Hey guys, it's Marshall Mathers the fourth here, back to you today with another video, and today I will be talking about the fact that I really hate how expensive everything is. Now, I've already pretty much made a video about this sort of topic, but I will have to say that that video that I did wasn't that good. It wasn't as great as I personally wanted to make it. Plus, I had a lot of mucus problem and like sinus problem during that video anyways, so I mean I kind of wanted to redo it anyways, and this video has a slightly different title anyways, because that video's title was everything is too expensive, and this video will be titled I hate how expensive everything is. And I want to start off by saying that, when it comes to houses, especially, most of all, those are expensive as fuck, which I'm pretty sure we can all agree on. And, I just find it really annoying how expensive houses are. It makes me furious as hell how expensive they are, and how just absolutely greedy people are when it comes to the people who are even in charge of the house market or pricing houses as much and as high as they are. Because I honestly don't even know how any of the people in the house market, the real estate agents and the people who are just in total charge of pricing the houses as high as they are, I really do not know or understand how the fuck they expect us, especially the younger generation, to afford any of those houses, as expensive as most houses are. And I mean, even to get a decent house, you have to spend, I don't know, $200,000, $300,000, hell, maybe even $400,000, or maybe even a little bit more. And that's just even for a decent house. But to get even a better house than that, you have to pretty much pay $1 million, or at least close to $1 million. Like, I don't know, 600, 700, 800, 900,000 or $1 million to get even a better house that has like more bedrooms and more bathrooms and shit like that. It just annoys me. It really does frustrate me so much how expensive houses cost and are. And especially knowing and considering the fact that most houses today are very cheaply built. I mean, literally, they are. Because most houses nowadays are made with like plastic siding, first of all, and made with like the cheapest like materials that you, as somebody who's like a house builder or whatever, could ever possibly find. And when it comes to the people who like build the houses, I don't know what they're called exactly, but I'll just call them house builders. They make them as cheap and just chintzy as they possibly can. And what I mean by chintzy is weak. They make houses so cheaply and chintzy nowadays. And I mean, when it comes to the houses that I personally love, in my opinion at least, I'm personally a fan of and really love houses that are like all brick or stone or shit like that. Like, and by that I mean like the outside of the house is either made out of stone, concrete, or whatever for a good, strong, sturdy foundation, or brick. And I would say my favorite would have to probably be brick, if anything. And I'm also a really big fan of like houses in like the UK or Europe or Germany or whatever, because their houses are actually much more strongly built. Even though it's very left-wing over in those countries or areas of the world, I have to give them the credit and benefit where it's due. And where it's due is when it comes to the houses that they themselves build over there. They actually make really strong, sturdy, long-lasting houses that are also really beautiful. And like the neighborhoods, even the ones that are dangerous and violent, I mean, the houses at least look pretty good. I mean, I've seen some houses in those countries, in those places of the world, like when it comes to just pictures online and whatnot. And when it comes to American houses, though, on the other hand, again, we just build our houses, not we as all people, but just in a general point of view. The people who make or build the houses that we as Americans live in or buy are not only so cheaply built, but so chintzy built too. They're just built so weak to not even last, like, I don't know, 10 or 15 years. And that's literally maybe how long that most houses nowadays even last. Maybe a decade, maybe 10 years, maybe 15, maybe 20 at the very most. But they don't last that long, like no longer than 15 or 20 years, because of how weak and how chintzy and how cheaply they're built. And yet we as Americans have to pay a fucking few $100,000 for these shitty ass, lame, pathetic, pitiful, worthless built houses that hardly last that long, if you really think about it, because houses used to last hundreds of years. I mean, there's literally houses still around that are over 100 years old, and yet they're still holding up. Sure, they may need a few repairs here and there, but overall, they're still standing strong and firm. And that just proves and goes to show you that houses back in the day, a long time ago, there was way more thought and effort and just heart and soul and whatnot put into building houses than people who have been making houses for, like, I don't know, the past 30, 40 years or something. And it's just ridiculous. And honestly, I can't not even believe how expensive houses are. I really can't. It shocks me. It blows my mind how expensive houses are in America. I mean, literally. And I'm pretty sure they're not just expensive in America, but probably also other countries as well. But even just knowing that houses are expensive as they are, and they're not even worth that. I mean, literally, ask yourself, are houses fairly priced? I mean, really think about that for a minute and ask yourself that, because I don't think they are. And that brings me to my next thing that I want to talk about that is also very expensive. Apartments. What's crazy as fuck is it's hard as hell to even find an apartment that costs, I don't know, $600, $700 a month. You will literally be lucky if you're able to find an apartment for $600, $700 a month. And even then, they can easily raise the price of rent to like $1,200 a month. And, most apartments, in general in America, and I'm pretty sure elsewhere in the world, but especially in America, are literally like fucking $1,200 to $1,400 a month. And that's just even for a decent apartment. Not even for like a fancy, like pristine, luxurious apartment, just a basic, ordinary, average, just decent apartment that's not really anything that fancy or that great. $1,200 to $1,400 a month. As if us young people in this generation, with how very little we make at our jobs, whatever our jobs may be, and yet they expect us to just easily get by and easily be able to afford paying for such a ridiculously, insanely high-priced apartment, or apartments for that matter. I mean, it's just crazy to think of how expensive apartments are. It is just so bizarre. It's so strange. It's unfair if you ask me. And just like whoever's in charge of pricing houses as high as they are, the people who are in charge of pricing the apartments are also just lunatics, idiots for pricing them as high as they are. And also another thing that is very expensive, that I hate how expensive they are, is vehicles. And I would say, like, when it comes to vehicles are by far the most thing, even more than houses and apartments, that really do piss me the fuck off how expensive they are. Or should I say how ridiculously expensive they are. Because think about it. You go to a car dealership, and whether you go to a car dealership to buy a brand spanking new vehicle or a pre-owned or used vehicle, doesn't matter. Pretty much all of them, whether it's brand new, pre-owned, used vehicle sold in a car dealership lot, they're fucking what? $20,000, $25,000, $30,000, $35,000, $40,000, and so on and so forth. I mean, it's like, really? Are you fucking kidding me? Are you serious right now? How the fuck am I supposed to afford a vehicle on fucking minimum wage? Seriously, tell me that. I mean, honest to God, please, by all means, educate me and tell me and give me advice of how I'm supposed to somehow, some miraculous way afford to get a vehicle. And obviously, everyone needs a vehicle to get around because of how, like, far apart everything is and how spread out everything is. And, you know, I used to think people who were spoiled and privileged enough of being born and raised in big cities had it so very easy and had such an unfair advantage compared to people who are raised in the rural areas, like me, for example, because of the fact that they're raised in big cities and they probably, I don't know, are able to, like, walk to their jobs, and they're not. And I can't even believe at one point I thought that. I can't even believe I used to think that, because I was a moron, a stupid retard. Because even when it comes to people who are privileged and spoiled enough of being born and raised in big cities, even a lot of times their jobs will still be miles away from their house or wherever they live, a house, apartment, wherever. I mean, even people in big cities need to have a vehicle to get around. It's not easy. You know, America as a country has not made it easy to get around without a vehicle, and whether that be a car, an SUV, a Suburban, a truck, whatever it may be, a van. America, our leaders in power, the politicians, the rich, the powerful, the capitalists, the whatever, they have made it so very hard and difficult to be able to get around without a vehicle. And, you know, what I find extremely unfair is only people who live in small cities or big cities or medium-sized cities have the convenience of being able to ride around in a bus transit. But that is only like a privilege or advantage or a convenience that only city people have, that is only exclusive to them, which I find incredibly unfair, because, I mean, what do us rural people have to depend on to get around if we don't have our own vehicles for whatever reason? We don't have a bus that comes way out to the rural areas to pick us up and bring us into any city. We don't have a train. And, you know, it's crazy to think that, you know, 100 years ago or 100 plus years ago, America used to have trains that literally would travel to the country and to the city. I mean, back in the day, and I mean way back in the day, trains used to literally go way out into the country, way out into the rural areas, pick up as much people from the country as they possibly could, and they would take them on a train to the city, to Greenville, to Grand Rapids, to Detroit, whatever, and so that those people from the rural area, from the country, would still have a way to get to and from a city and to be able to get to and from their job easily. America used to have that convenience, which as a country, as a nation, we should have never gotten rid of, and yet we did. And that was a grave mistake. Whoever made the choice, decision, or decided to get rid of trains just all around was a complete and total moron, a nut job, an idiot, a fool, a prick. Somebody who is just an absolute flat-out retard. Because if we still had trains to this day, that would be a dream come true. That would help so many people out, especially when like gas prices are getting as high as they are. And that brings me to another thing that pisses me the fuck off. Like when it comes to cars, you know, cars are not only already super fucking expensive to buy, and hell, even when you buy them from somebody just on the side of the road, sure, they're a lot cheaper, but they're not necessarily cheap. They're still expensive. They're just a lot more cheaper than vehicles are that you would, buy in a dealership, an actual dealership. But even then, like, even the like cheapest car you could possibly get is like, $400, $800, $1,000. And cars that are $400, $800, or $1,000 or $1,200 or $400 are pieces of shit. They literally are garbage because most people don't even take care of their vehicles. I mean, literally, most people drive ridiculously fast and way over the speed limits, and also they brake really fast in their car. They take corners really fast. They get into accidents and so on and so forth. And so by the time they actually want to sell their vehicle, it's a heaping pile of junk. The brakes are shit. The gas pedal is shit and worn the fuck out. And you know, I fucking hate it how people don't even want to sell their vehicles for, $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, whatever it is, until they rack up their mileage or miles that they have driven on that vehicle of theirs until it reaches like literally fucking 100,000 miles or 150,000, 200,000, 300,000 miles. Like, people don't want to get rid of their vehicles or sell their vehicles or whatever until they have already racked up so many fucking ridiculous, insane amount of fucking miles on their damn vehicles. Like the fucking pieces of shit retards they are. And you know why that pisses me off? Because when I was young and dumb, when I would look up used cars and see like, oh, this car already has 150,000 miles used up on it, or 200,000 miles used up on it, or whatever. When I was young and dumb, and not even that long ago, I was so stupid. But I think it's kind of funny in a way, because I literally, honest to God, used to think that when cars were as expensive as they are, not expensive as they were, when they had the like amount of miles already used up on them, used cars that is, I literally, honest to God, I shit you not, used to actually believe only like a year or two ago that, oh, that means that this vehicle goes up to that many miles. That's what that means. I literally thought that. I'm not even joking with any of you. And yet it doesn't. What it actually means, which pisses me the fuck off now that I realize it and understand it, it means that whoever was the previous owner of that piece of junk vehicle now that it's a piece of junk, drove it for that many miles. And sometimes I wonder and ask myself, how the fuck do people rack up so many damn fucking miles on their vehicles? I mean, seriously, before selling them and used or whatever, how the hell do they rack up so many miles on their vehicles? Especially knowing that, like, America, like, from the East Coast to the West Coast is only like a few thousand miles. And sometimes I'm wondering and asking myself and just really confused and scratching my head here, like where did these motherfuckers go when they used to own this vehicle of theirs? How were they able to rack up this many amount of miles, or those many amount of miles? What are they traveling the whole country all the time, every single day, every single second and minute and hour or whatever? Or do they like have a job in a different state every couple weeks or few months or few years or something? Like, how and why? But what would make sense is just simply the fact that because they have been driving it for so many decades, probably, before finally thinking to sell it and want to get rid of it, because they don't want to keep driving a used up, worn out vehicle anymore. And so they'll sell it to a poor, sad sap like me who can't afford to get a nicer vehicle, which is just so cruel on their part, on their behalf. And then I'm stuck with their piece of shit, piece of junk, garbage, really extremely worn out vehicle. And I'm just like, fuck you, people. Fuck you. Literally. Fuck you and fuck off. Go screw yourselves for selling me your severely, extremely worn out, overused, really just piece of shit, piece of junk, piece of garbage vehicle that you just wrecked the shit out of. And then you take advantage of poor people who can't afford to get a brand new vehicle or a pre-owned one, or one that's in way better condition. And you know what pisses me the fuck off as an American citizen, as somebody both born and raised here in this shitty ass country of America, is the fact that the only people who can literally afford to get brand new vehicles or pre-owned, and same with like easily be able to afford and buy a house or apartment if they just want to live in an apartment, especially if they're single and don't have a wife and kids or whatever, are people who literally have really fucking good paying jobs. I mean, literally, there's no question about it. Like, if you're a doctor, a lawyer, a nurse, a electrician, a welder, a plumber, a a psychiatrist, people who just make a fuck ton of money, a boatload of money. Those are the only people in America who have the privilege and advantage of easily being able to pay for and provide for themselves with the crazy, insane expenses of life, such as buying a house, buying a brand new vehicle, paying for an apartment, paying for gas, paying for insurance on their vehicle, and maybe, if they have one, providing for a family, and paying for health insurance and all that other crazy expensive shit. And it's like, damn, you know, it is just unbelievable that only the people who have these super high paying jobs that are only given to and only ever offered to people who followed the system and followed society's rules and expectations of them and graduated high school, or at least got their GED, went to college, went to medical school, went to whatever, went to trading school or whatever, and just grinded like a motherfucker until they landed a really high paying job, which then allows them to easily be able to pay for all those fucking expenses of life that are so crazy, insane, ridiculously expensive. And you know, another thing that I just mentioned a little while ago is car insurance. You know, what's so stupid about vehicles is like they're already so damn fucking expensive, And yet we as Americans have to pay for car insurance. Like, what the flying fuck? I mean, why? Why can't I just drive a vehicle without having to pay for car insurance? Seriously. I don't understand that. I don't get that. It doesn't make any sense to me. Any logical sense, anyways. And it's like, plus you have to pay for gas. And hell, if you have a truck, that means you have to pay for diesel, which is even more expensive than just regular gasoline. And it's like, bro, vehicles are already expensive by themselves, and then you have to pay for gasoline or diesel as long as you own that vehicle for, and then you also have to pay for insurance on it. Fuck out of here. Seriously. That is so stupid. And you know, another thing that is just insanely expensive in America is groceries, which is insane as fuck. I mean, literally, like, groceries are so very expensive. I shit you not. You go to Walmart, you go to Myers, or you go to whatever store that's in your state, in your city, or whatever, in the area you live in, and you have $100. Say you just have $100 flat on cash or on your debit card or credit card or whatever. And try to just see how much food you get with just $100 flat. I guarantee and promise you all, you will barely get jack squat. You will barely get anything. I'm not even kidding. Does his face look like I'm joking? And, you know, even $200 doesn't give you that much food. I mean, it gives you a decent amount, and that's after, like, spending $200. Now, if you're spending more like, oh, I don't know, $400 or $500 on groceries, then yeah, that's definitely going to give you a way better amount of groceries or food or whatever. But that's after spending fucking $400, $500 on groceries or more even. And it's like, wow, this is ridiculous. This is fucking insane and crazy. It's going to make my mind explode. And it's just so ridiculous how expensive things are. And, you know, like, for example, turkey is more expensive than beef and even chicken and ham or pig or pork or whatever. And it's just like ridiculous. Now, I kind of understand why turkey would be more expensive because, after all, turkey is a much smaller animal than a cow is or a pig. But guess what? Turkey and chickens are not that different in size, and yet to buy turkey meat, it's even more expensive than chicken meat. I mean, chicken meat is still pretty pricey, but turkey meat is even more expensive. I feel like at the most, like ground turkey or turkey lunch meat that you get at a grocery store, at the very most should be like ground turkey, for example, I feel like should only be like $5 at the very most. And at the most expensive, like price-wise, $5 flat, no more than that. And when it comes to like packs of turkey lunch meat, should be like, I don't know, $3 or like $2.50, something like that. But no, instead, ground turkey is literally like fucking $11, $12 for just a pound, or 3 pounds or something like that. And then turkey lunch meat, like in the packs of turkey lunch meat, it's fucking like $6 to $8 for one fucking pack. Like, are you fucking kidding me right now? That is just so stupid and ridiculous. And, you know, that brings me to another point that I want to make in this video, that, you know, if you have any food allergies or food sensitivities, well, guess what? The people in the food industry and the food market or whatever can easily take advantage of that, because they're like, oh, you have an allergy or sensitivity to wheat, to dairy, to whatever. Oh, well, guess what? Gluten-free, dairy-free stuff is way, way more expensive than wheat or dairy. And the only reason wheat and dairy is so cheap as it is, not after inflation, but before inflation anyways, is because wheat and dairy are two of the most main things that are subsidized by the government and have been for a very long time, which is why wheat and dairy is always so cheap. I mean, usually anyways, before inflation, that is. And, what's ridiculous is that, when it comes to like ground beef, I remember before inflation, ground beef was only, I don't know, a couple few bucks for a pound, in a way bigger pound than ground turkey. Couple few bucks, but then it's like, oh, ground turkey, $6, $7, $8, 9, 10, 11, $12 easily. It's like, fuck, dude. Jeez. What are you trying to do? Suck me of all the money I make? I just don't get it. Same thing with any like gluten-free or dairy-free or egg-free or hazelnut-free or whatever. Like, the more a certain food is free of certain things, whether that be nuts and wheat and dairy and gluten and all that shit, egg, the more expensive it is. Like, for example, I really love and enjoy these cookies called Enjoy Life. It's a brand, and it's the soft baked ones with chocolate chips. They're like fucking $3.50 to $4, maybe $5 by this point, and it's like, they only have 3 rows, and the cookies are really small, and they're really good with rice milk and like chopped up. But it's like, dude, that's expensive as fuck. And I mean, what's also crazy is like dairy-free ice cream, which is in literally like a cup-sized container, literally. And yet, like, dairy ice cream is always in like a fucking huge ass damn bucket of ice cream. But then dairy-free ice cream, whether that be coconut ice cream or soy ice cream, cashew ice cream, or almond ice cream, if that even exists anymore, which I don't think it does. It's like fucking $5, $6 for a small ass little cup of dairy-free ice cream. It's fucking ridiculous. And like non-GMO popsicles, the on-shine popsicles are fucking like what, $6 for a little pack of 4, or a pack of like 12 or something, or whatever. It's like fucking $9 or $10 or some, or like $7, $8. It's just fucking ridiculous. And that's what I mean. And the point I'm trying to make here, when it's like, if you're somebody who is allergic to certain foods or has food sensitivities, the people who are literally like the owners and controllers and like in complete and total charge of manufacturing all the different types of foods can easily take advantage of anyone who has a food allergy or food sensitivity by pricing those things way, 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 way higher than compared to like the normal wheat and dairy versions of themselves, which is just so stupid and cruel and just mean to take advantage of people who have food allergies and food sensitivities, like me, for example. And so it makes it even harder for people like me to even buy food and to provide, even just for myself alone. And, it's safe to say that the only job I'm ever going to be able to have and work at is a shitty ass lame minimum wage paying job. That is literally the only kind of type of job I will ever fucking have. Because I didn't stay in high school. I dropped out in the 9th grade. I didn't even get my GED, and I don't fucking want to, because I just honestly don't see the point and purpose of getting my GED anyways, because a lot of jobs don't even really require an education. So I just really don't see any reason or point to even get an education or to even bother. Another reason I don't want an education is because I don't want to be like everyone else. I don't want to be a sheep. I don't want to be a follower. I don't want to follow the rest of the crowd. I don't want to just follow the system and follow society. I'm honestly a rebel here. And if I chose to get an education, if I chose to get a GED, that would just ruin my whole plan and purpose and meaning and whatnot to be a rebel, because that's exactly who I am, in at least some ways anyways. And, and other things that are really expensive in life are like fucking shoes and clothes, and also materialistic things that people want, like for example, TVs, gaming consoles, gaming computers, video games, movies. And, and I guess this will be the last thing I talk about here. Like, when it comes to gaming computers, like, and I mean actual full-on gaming computers, not a regular-ass basic standard computer. I mean a straight-up gaming computer. There are thousands of fucking dollars. Thousands of fucking dollars, easily. And, since I was 16 years old, I wanted at least, at the very minimum, a $5,000 gaming computer. At least. Maybe not really a $10,000 one, which is kind of ridiculous, but definitely at least a $5,000 one at the, like, very cheapest and, like, also very most expensive. But I don't have the kind of money to afford that. I'm not fucking made of money. I'm not a fucking doctor, a nurse, a lawyer, an electrician, a plumber, a welder. I'm not a fucking psychiatrist. I'm not a fucking surgeon. I'm not a fucking politician where I'm just loaded with cash and can just easily blow money like there's no tomorrow. As much as I wish I could, I can't. I never had that kind of money, and I never will. And that's a very obvious and clear fact. And, like, video games are something that are extremely expensive, which is so very stupid. Every time a new video game gets released, you know how expensive they are? 60 to 70 bucks. Brand new. Launch date, right as they come out. It's like, fuck, dude. And, like, the Xbox Series X and PS5, both over $1,000 because of inflation and because of so many people buying the shit out of those fucking consoles since 2020. You fucking pricks. You all suck. And it's like, not only that, but it's like, even like normally and typically those two consoles would have been like, I don't know, $400, $600. I mean, that's not necessarily cheap. And you know what's so stupid is the fact that, like, I understand people need to make a profit who are in charge of, like, making all these things in this world, food, clothing, shelter, etc. But it's like, they don't need to make as much of a profit as they are doing. Like, for example, Dr. Dre's Beats by Dr. Dre headphones. It's funny how he put his name on them, as if trying to imply and, like, trick and deceive his fans and just anyone that, oh yeah, that probably means that he made them, right? Dr. Dre actually made these headphones himself with his hands. No, he just put his name on them, and that automatically makes them crazy expensive, like fucking $400. Like, fuck out of here. Seriously, fuck out of here. And it's like, $400. I wonder how much it actually cost them to actually make those headphones. Being Apple, oh yeah, it cost them like $50 maybe 40. But yeah, because it has his name on it, they have to bump it up to fucking $400. And that's like what I mean by, like, when it comes to these people from all these monster corporations and just monstrous companies and capitalists and whatnot, they just are so selfish and so very greedy when it comes to the profit that they feel that they deserve, that they're entitled to, that they're owed. Wow, dude. Way to suck people's money. Way to suck them dry. And Apple's another example of a company that just prices their things so ridiculously high. All of their products. Which is why I've always hated Apple as a company. They've always been crazy expensive with everything that they make and sell. Even when Steve Jobs was alive. And again, I'm not saying that I don't want people to make a profit. I do. I understand people need to make a profit. But they don't need to make as big of a profit as they are. They don't need to really just rack up the prices of things as high as they are. It's just unfair. It really is. And it's just ridiculous and stupid and retarded. And you know, movies are another thing that are expensive, like Blu-rays and 4Ks. Like, to buy a brand new Blu-ray movie can be anywhere from $8, $9, $10 to like fucking $15 for just one damn Blu-ray movie. Now, for a 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray movie, it's easily $20, $25 for just one. Like, wow, dude, that's expensive. And yet, I'm trying my very best here, especially when I had a job, or should I say jobs, to try and buy as many possible Blu-rays and 4K movies as I possibly can manage to. And I can't. There's still so many I want to buy, but I don't have the money to get them because I'm not fucking made of money as much as I wish I was. And Blu-rays and 4K movies are just crazy, insane expensive. And, you know, what is so very interesting, and what I guess I'll end this video on and just leave all of you to think about, way back in the 1950s, and even earlier than that and before that, on minimum wage, you could easily buy a house, buy a brand new car, pay for groceries, provide for yourself in general, and also for a family. You could do all of that plus more on minimum wage way back then. In the 50s and earlier, meaning in the 40s, 30s, 20s, 1910s, and 1900 to 1909. I mean, back then, things were so much better in that way. Like, literally, on minimum wage, I'm not even kidding. My mom told me this herself. Like, she told me her grandparents, or maybe it was her aunt and uncle, bought a house back in like the 50s, or maybe it was 1960s. And if it was 60s, it may have been like early 60s, for like literally $3,000. And actually a nice house too. $3,000. And on minimum wage, they were able to easily buy a house, buy brand new cars, provide for their children, provide for themselves, just so easily. Piece of cake. Not any problems whatsoever financially. But then 1960s came around and everything changed for the worse. 1960s came around and people became selfish, greedy, self-entitled, self-absorbed, narcissistic, and so on and so forth. And just felt like they deserved so much money and that they were owed so much money. And they just wanted to make ridiculously high profits on just everything that they possibly could. And the 1960s, like, are a result of what's happening now in this country. It can all be traced back to the 1960s because of everything that happened and changed in the 1960s is why our country of America is just on thin ice, on a small line here, and just collapsing before our very eyes and just falling apart slowly but surely. And it's like, wow, I just can't believe this. I really can't. It's mind-blowing. It's shocking stuff. It stuns me. It really does surprise me of how just very unfortunate things have been in America for so very long. And yet they are. And there's like nothing we can do to change it. There's nothing we can do to stop it. But anyways, let me know what you all think in the comment section down below. I'm out.